Hey,
Hi, how are you?
good. How
Hola,
are you?
Nati. Nati's here too. That's nice.
Yes, Anora. A lot of people that we know are
That's
here,
nice. Hey, thank
presente.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Of course. No, it's my pleasure to be in conversation with you.
Thank you.
So, how are you? Where are you right now?
I'm good. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, in my apartment. Here are my bookshelf. And yeah, that's what we got, right? So, yes.
Yeah. So, why don't we talk about your work? Let me just put up the presentation here. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what are we
Oh.
seeing here?
This is a very old project. It's called Forget Me Not. Um, it was actually one of my first art endeavors. Like the first time I said, "Oh, let me do
Mm-hmm.
something," right? And well, basically, I would abandon postcards, scatter them around in public places in different cities. Of course, not alone, but with the help of many of my friends that traveled. And in these postcards, I would handwrite a message that was the same for every postcard, and I would pre-stamp them, right? And I would basically urge whomever found it to write me back. And the postcards had also brought like this promise of if you found it and you wrote me, I would keep writing you back as long as this relationship kept growing and the person kept responding. So every time a friend would travel, I would give them a few postcards and ask them to leave it in places that were representative for them, and they would take a picture, right? So what I like about this project is that the postcards were scattered in many cities, and I'm going to cheat right now because I don't remember all the cities, but I wrote them down. So it went to Bangkok, Barcelona, Berlin, Brighton, Buenos Aires, Chiang Mai, Chicago, Cambridge, Helen in Georgia, Hong Kong, Paris, Copenhagen, Mexico City, Milan, Nice, Paris, Rome, Singapore, Tokyo, Utrecht, Wales, New York, Philly, Nigeria, Kyoto, Croatia, several cities
Wow.
in Croatia. Yeah. So it was crazy actually.
So
And
what can you remind me what the instructions were?
So it spoke about how we are so lost in the ways we communicate. So it was a proposal for a slower communication, which was basically my intention, right? To establish this constant flow of sending something and receiving it back, and handwriting and understanding who that person was actually. Because in a sense, because of social media, and this is a comment on social media and this idea of connectedness, right? We as a contemporary society, we think we're connected to someone else, but actually we're isolated in our little bubbles of our houses and
Right.
etc.
So how
Yeah.
do you feel that? I mean, I feel that this work also would be very relevant today to our current reality with COVID and um,
I tried. I tried to write. No. I did. I tried to write some postcards to some friends of mine in Brazil early in the pandemic, and my postcards were returned for some reason. I think they weren't doing international postcard delivery, but I feel like um, we now have to rely on FaceTime and Zoom and Insta
yeah.
Lives to connect. So this project does render itself very relevant to this moment where people are isolated in their houses, but also just like oppressed by this deep feeling of being alone in this situation, this pandemic that is so despairing in a way.
Right.
So I see this project as like the relevance is very clear to me at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you save them? Where do you save them? Do you have them as an artwork, or are they?
Oh, I brought them all here. I brought them all. They now are stored under my bed, but in a little box. But I keep the ones that have the original message, but I also keep the ones that that I got the response. Many of the people that I wrote to and that wrote me back have moved. So some of them I have no idea who they are. Actually, I have no idea who they are because they would only sign their initials.
Yeah.
So that we could maintain a certain sense of anonymity and and secrecy to the experience of writing to each other, you know. Yeah.
Look at this one with the landscape and everything.
Yeah, this one is in upstate New York, actually. And what I feel is great is that the people, my friends, they allowed themselves this creative art direction in the pictures. So they would find places that actually had a lot of connection to the postcards themselves. And they would play around with this. And I found that great also because it gave them, it became a collaboration. They were also helping me create something.
Yeah. Let me see if I can show more of, we're up with the postcards. Now we get into your video work. Can you let us know a little bit about this this piece in particular?
Well, yes. This piece is called "Your Presence Weighs on My Daily Commute," and this is actually part of a two-part project. Okay, this is the video, but originally the whole project involved a daily task of writing on the on the subway. So I would ride the subway and write small poems every single day. And these poems had to be necessarily about love, lust, craving, attraction, pain due to love. And I had just arrived in New York and I was going through a breakup, intense breakup. And this friend of mine from Brazil called me and said, hey, you should read this book. It's a book called A Book of Love. It has 2 volumes and it's by Regina Navarro Lynch. And she writes about love since the Paleolithic times. So it became very interesting to me to understand how our ideas of love and relationships are also molded by society and customs and culture. And so I felt a deep need to still write and connect to this estranged ex-partner. So I made a contract of writing on the subway every day for 1 whole year. And I did that. And the video is the second part of this investigation where I go deeper into these ideas proposed by Regina Navarro Lynch and mesh that into a sort of visual collage with my own writing on the subway. So what came out of that. And also some quotes from Maggie Nelson's The Argonauts. And yeah, so this was what?
Do you have something published? Can we see something? Or
I do have the writings. I do have the writings. they became a stack, a very big stack of paper. So I used to write on rice paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a very huge stack of rice papers.
Yeah. Feels like you like to collect things.
Well, yes, I did collect postcards when I was younger, and coins. I like collecting coins too. Mm-hmm. But hey, enough with me.
This is all about you, by the way.
Oh, okay, all right.
So tell us a little bit about this work, which it's called Mulata.
Yeah, Mulata.
Yeah.
Yeah. This work for me marks a relationship that I have established between language and the materials that I use. So I have a very particular relationship with steel, because steel is a very tough, rigid material. It is an alloy of iron and carbon, which in a way steel is kind of like mixed race, just like me. And it's stubborn, and it's a tough material to work with. And so it became a challenge, and I chose to work with it. So this piece, mulata, it came from an investigation of the etymology of the word mulata, which is a derogatory term because it's used to refer to women that are mixed race. But what it means, like the origins of the word, basically mean the hybrid or the mix or the offspring of a horse, which is a noble animal, and a mule or donkey. So I hated that. The moment I discovered this, I was very irritated, and I needed to do something about it. And since I have this relationship with steel, and I see steel as a body, every work of mine that is done in steel, I see them as bodies, as different bodies, racialized bodies. And so this piece, it originated from a poem that I wrote, talking about how we should go from rust to dust, meaning that we should go from violence to the decimation or dismantling of violence. And of course, I'm talking about systemic racism and oppression against racialized bodies. In this poem, there's a line where, I don't remember very well, but there's a line where I said something about a horizon of rust. So for me, I find it very calming to just look at it and see that there is this horizon of all we can see is violence, but there is some sort of hope in the fact that the material will disintegrate. I won't live to see it, but it will, due to the process of rusting and oxidation. So, yeah. So, and this was the first piece I ever sold.
Oh, really?
Actually, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does it feel to like? I mean, for me, it feels like this is kind of an extension of yourself. Or, how does it feel to?
Well, in a way, I think that there are other works that are more that would be able to translate me or act as a self-portrait in a way, in more effective ways than Mulata. This one, I remember sitting in my studio when I was still in school and just looking at it, I would take down every other project that was, that I didn't want to stick around with, but this one always remained there. and I would just look at it, almost like, for instance, for me, this is the promised land. If I am allowed to quote Mr. Obama, this would be a promised land, a place where we would not have to be struggled by these divisions in race and in gender and in creed and etc. Yeah.
Mm.
So
It's a great work.
thank you.
And what about this one? We can't really see a whole lot of but now maybe, yeah, with this one you can see.
That's my baby.
Yeah, no, I love this work. I want us to spend a little time with it because I think that is very special work. Can you talk
well, the
about
name of this, what?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, just the whole like experience,
well,
and like from making the work, but also having the audience experience it.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Raízes, which means roots. It's made out of steel and iron and glass, and basically it proposes a dialogue between the personal and the public, micro and macro perspectives, and it talks about experiences of mine with racism and of people that I know, and it relates that personal aspect with the Whitening Project, which I'm always surprised that many people, even in Brazil, don't know what the Whitening Project is or was, and how this project was so evident in Gilberto Freire's book, The Masters and the Slaves. Gilberto Freire is an intellectual from Brazil, deceased, but he was also a congressman, studied sociology, and a very well-respected man at his time. And this book is super well-known. It's taught in schools to this day. And it's kind of like a reference if you want to study or understand the historical aspects of the slave trade era here in Brazil, right? In Brazil, sorry. So Raízes proposes this dialogue between certain things that he says in the book, like, for instance, black women we fuck. Black women we fuck, mulatas. I don't remember. Anyways, so there are several problematic phrases that are shown in the book and written in the book that I wanted to contrast with these experiences of suffering racism. And so the piece has rusted magnifying lenses and about 60 or 70 hand-engraved steel plaques that have these sayings. And it is important, what's important to me was, I knew that I wanted two things with this work. That I wanted the audience to kneel, so it stands on a very low plinth, close to the ground, and it was made here in the US, so it's a work that is specific to this country, to be seen in this country, I mean. And the viewer, even if he gets close, he's not able to see through the magnifying lenses because they don't match, and some of them are rusted, and the piece is basically rusting and falling apart as we speak. So there's this idea of the concealment of what history shows, and how our histories and our stories are still very much how can I say subjected to colonization and colonizers' perspectives.
Right.
Yeah, and just to mention this, the Whitening Project.
Yeah.
Basically, it was a period right after abolition that the Brazilian government paid immigrants, white immigrants, to come to Brazil to work as labor force without providing our slaves that were now free a structure to grow and readapt and be reinserted into society, right? So this new white immigrant population was there for this reason, as labor, but also to install this project of whitening a population that at that time was in its majority black, and that wasn't good for the white elites. Hence Whitening Project, right? And well, this is my little baby. I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
I
you
hope I
did. You did. But why do you call it that, your baby? I mean, it's a huge.
Well, it's big. It's
Yeah.
big. It was a very labor intensive process to make it, because you have to, not only the welding, but also I had to strip the steel from its coating by sandblasting so that it would be able to rust it, because the rust was a process that took 2 months for it to get to this stage. So I had to keep rusting it every day and tending to it. So it was almost like a child. And also because this is a work that is very close to me. My understanding of my identity and what racism did to my body as well, and how it operates in this way in many other people's bodies, and many times this goes unseen. So I wanted these experiences, both mine and of other friends of mine that had to overcome these oppressions regarding their race, to come through with the piece. So it was a journey making this piece.
Yeah. And this was I first saw this work at the this
Hunter.
one was at Hunter. Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I I was I met Anna a couple of months ago with a friend, and I was like, I've heard your name before. And then we were like, oh, of course, it was at Hunter. Yeah. So Rust
Arden Sherman and Nora Maite.
Yes. Also colleagues and I very loved friends. And so Rust is also a very recurrent subject in your work. And can you talk about this work also with Mulata?
Well, this one is the one that I consider a self-portrait.
Right.
So it is similar to the other one with regards to rust as an element of violence on a steel body, and also this idea of the deterioration from rust to dust. Anyways, but this piece, for me, it's more of it also acts in a way that denies the audience the right, or denies the audience access to the language. So if you don't understand what the term means, what mulata means, you can't understand all the layers of meaning that I put or tried to put into this work, right? So mulatas, they were, due to the lightness of their skin, just like me, right? They're mixed race. They were seen as exotic and sensual, and usually they were preferred by the slave masters. They were brought into the house and usually sexually abused, impregnated. So it's a term that is still used in Brazil. People are still calling each other mulatas. I don't understand why. So this piece, its name is Eu Não Sou Mulata. So if you know a little bit of Spanish, maybe you'll understand.
Yeah.
If not, please check out the title. Eu Não Sou Mulata. So it's a piece that also, like, you have to know the language, you have to know what the word means, and I think that it's a little bit how I think I act as well, in a way, regarding my culture. Like, I can talk to you about it for forever, very enthusiastically, but I want your interest. You know, it's not for free. It's not well, give me some and I'll give you some. It's like a dialogue.
Yeah.
It's a connection, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
And this work is
that's this name is hard. Hail Potamotragon leopoldi. Potamotragon leopoldi is a very specific kind of manta ray, black ray, that is from the Amazon River, and it's very venomous. And so I made this work in January because it was curated into the Immigrant Artist Biennial by Katya Groszowski. And it's this piece is like a mark of my yielding to collage and to this medium that I have always worked with since I was young, and that I came back to early this year, with this piece. The piece features this woman, this Afro-Brazilian woman, and talks about candomblé religion, which is an Afro-Brazilian religion, and its sacred and ancestral rituals. And this is a very new piece to me. It's sitting here in my living room.
Oh, really? Can we see? Or is it? I mean, we have it here, but yeah.
No, it's just I just can't show you guys right now, because to do that I need to disconnect my phone from the tripod that has the light. Yeah, it's Zoom moments are really hard.
Yeah, no,
but
it's a process.
I can, at the end I can show it for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So this leads us to talk about yourself and you putting yourself in a line also, and it makes me think about, like, what does it feel to be, or to put yourself out there like this? And you can explain more a little bit about the work. Natalia is crying.
Oh, Natalia. Anyways, this performance is called Hiatus with No Hyphen. It was a 20-minute performance that I did in collaboration with Paulina Kim Ju and Nicole Economidis. And it took place in 2019 at UrbanGlass. And basically I'm wearing, in my arm, I'm wearing 8 pairs of electrodes that are connected to a machine that shocks me. And I give the audience the opportunity to play with my body by shocking my body. And it tackles ideas of like systemic racism, violence against Black bodies, of course, and but this is a piece that I am done with, and very much because of what we're talking. This like putting your body in the world like this, to suffer violence again. I'm done. I can't even formulate words, because it shows you a lot about who the audience is. Actually, it shows me more about people than they would imagine. Like,
Right.
I remember who did it, and I remember the pain I felt when they did it. Okay, of course, I as the artist, this was my proposal, but right now I'm at a moment in my process and practice that I don't feel that racialized bodies, Black bodies, should put themselves through the reenactment of violence. I don't want to feel that anymore, and I don't think it's productive to the discussion about race. Yeah.
So you wouldn't do this again or show this work?
I don't want to do it again. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'd rather not do that, but I do have other proposals within the realm of performance that don't necessarily inflict violence on my own body.
Yeah.
So.
And what were you trying to write here?
I was writing words that were used in protest. So in Brazil at this time, actually 1 year before, a Black lesbian congresswoman was murdered. She was murdered in Brazil, assassinated. And this attack is allegedly connected to the current president in power. And she was, Marielle was a presence wherever she went, and her views and her projects were all towards social justice. And so at this time when she was assassinated, many protests began popping up here and there throughout Brazil, but also here. And anyways, and many of these like posters said, "I will be resistance. I will resist." And so I was trying to paint that, write it, but it's squiggly because of the electroshocks. Yeah.
And this is part of your video work. This is really sad video, but it's very,
yeah.
very
Well,
moving.
Yeah. This was a hard piece to make, and it still moves me a lot when I hear the grandfather speaking at the end. Yeah. It's called An Apology to Elephants.
Can you talk more about the video itself?
Yeah, well, basically it's a collage of several videos and
Mm-hmm.
audio. It shows this metaphor. It narrates this metaphor between the life of this young elephant into adulthood and black bodies that are a target of police brutality. And what was happening in Brazil at the time was that a very young girl was shot and killed by the police. And her grandfather was interviewed by a local TV station. And his despair was so tangible and so profound when he spoke about his daughter that the video went viral. And that voice could be like resonated for many months in people's minds. So this is what the project is about, right? And I chose this name, An Apology to Elephants, because elephants are majestic creatures. They're so sensitive and sensible, and they have very intricate relationships within their families. They're very loving to one another. But they were exploited. They were used as labor, and for centuries that they have been poached because of their tusks, right? Mm-hmm. So I found that has a very big similarity with black bodies, which were exploited for cheap labor, disciplined with violence, kept in cages by the penitentiary system, poached, killed, shot, maybe killed sometimes even with knees on their necks, or while they slept, or while they went out for a run. So I feel that there is a need for a deep apology to elephants. Because they're majestic creatures, just as black people. They're majestic creatures. And yeah.
It's a really powerful work. I mean, I don't know if we have the time to see it, but we have the stills here. You can read more about it in Anya's website, but I don't want to leave without showing this other work. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of this work?
Well, you know what? I'm going to call Natalia Almonte to speak about that, because we spoke about that last week for over an hour. We had an interview, but so this is Caught in the Act. It's a performance I did in collaboration with Alexandra Dieters. She's also an artist. And Natalia Almonte was my director of photography. Gabriel Torres was my director. And it's a performance that was supposed to be a live performance, but I had to adapt it for video. And basically it portrays the relationship between a black woman and a white woman, and the difference in how they carry through life in a way. One of them is carrying weights the whole life, while the other one seems oblivious to what is happening in her surroundings. And at the end, it has this proposal for dialogue, which I think is what we most need right now in this divided country, in Brazil that is also a divided country. I would I would actually I would actually like to hear. I don't know who could have seen this before, but who actually watched it. But it's a piece that it's a proposal for dealing with racial violence and systemic racism through dialogue, through understanding and empathy.
Yeah.
At this moment.
Should we see a little bit about the work?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna flip my camera. Sorry. Okay. So, should I put it a little bit like?
It's your show. It's your show. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, it has also something that is very important for me in this piece is the audio, and I would definitely ask for people to go see it with the proper audio in their own homes, of course, unfortunately. But yeah, it's my newest piece. I'm still formulating language to speak about it.
And where was it presented, or was it meant to be in an exhibition, or?
Yeah, it was presented at the Immigrant Artists Biennial's closing ceremony,
Right.
and catalog launch, and but it was shot in a hangar here in New York, which for me the location was very important. I wanted a place that had this look and feel of almost like a dreamlike kind of abandoned space, mostly because I think that we as a society have always had this dream of a promised land, of a place where races would be able to dialogue and coexist, and without violence, without oppression. But we abandoned that. We abandoned that along the way somehow, and I feel like we should go back to this abandoned utopia of a place, and because we almost had it. We almost had this throughout history, several moments where we were able to almost dialogue, almost reach understanding. Yeah. What happened was I was reflecting a lot about the state of things right now, and the protests, George Floyd protests, and this idea of this circularity of a movement kept coming back to me. Almost like, what's the name? Sisyphus, the myth of Sisyphus, where he has to push a boulder up only to see it fall down again, and he has to keep doing this to eternity as punishment by the gods. So this idea of this circularity of this movement and the absurdity of having to also do things so many times and say things so many times and fight the same battles over and over, because it wasn't only George Floyd, there's a huge list of names and bodies that have fallen and that were stripped because of this violence, of this oppression, of these divisions. So the end of this piece is actually this glimpse of this utopia of a place we can find of racial understanding. And yeah, I think that's what I wanted with this piece.
Oh, there we have it. Let me see if I can flip this back. I'm like, okay. Okay, yeah. Back to the slides. So Anya, thank you so much. I want to open it up
Thank you.
for questions
Sure.
from the public. If you have anything else you want to share with us.
Oh, no, I mean, if you have any other questions, I'll surely, I'm here, I'm open to answering whatever you want.
Yeah. Let's just wait and see if other people have questions. But
yeah.
Do you feel that all of these works can like coexist in the same room? Because I feel like there's obviously a relationship between all of them.
Well, yes, except for Forget-Me-Nots.
Okay.
I think Forget-Me-Nots kind of stands alone in a way, but I mean, some of these pieces I had dreams that they were gonna be. Oh my God! My mom is saying congrats. Hi, mom.
My mom was also there.
Yeah. Anyways, but so I had this dream of like some of these pieces of standing alone in huge white rooms. Especially Haidi's. Haidi's, I wanted like this massive gallery, you know?
Yeah.
And this tiny little gesture somewhere in this room. But I do think that they are very connected, and they come from a place of trying to understand and also come to a reckoning and a comprehension of like what race not only means to me, but what it has meant throughout our histories and our shared histories. Because from my point of view, the history of systemic racism is the same. No matter what diaspora you are addressing, it comes from this same idea of division, superiority, right, suprematism. And I feel that, of course, if you are to speak about otherness, I only exist because you are different than I am. But in the end, I'm going to quote my friend that I spoke recently, Bel Falheiros. We are the same under the stars, you know, in a way. So why can't we get along, you know? Maybe I'm being too utopic, or I have like this ingrained idealism of a future, but that's why and how I view things and how I wish to push my work forward, you know?
Yeah. We have a question from Natalia.
Which Natalia?
Natalia Almonte.
Oh, okay. Hi, Natalia.
What are you working on now or next that we should be looking forward to?
Thank you. Well, right now I am working, I'm organizing upcoming series of exhibitions in Seattle.
Right.
I was invited by the director of Dachau Fenster Gallery in Ballard to curate next year's first semester. So I'm doing that in collaboration with Tiffany Elliott from Interloper. And basically it's going to feature Latin American artists from several countries, Brazil included, of course, but also Puerto Rico, Peru, Colombia, and I'm sorry, I forgot the other one. There's two other ones, and so we kick-started this project early this month. The artists don't even know who they are. Some do, but some still don't know. And I'm looking forward to it because I feel like being here in America, in the United States, coming from Brazil and the other America that is so forgotten about, Latin America. I feel that these voices need to be heard and they need to be seen, and I feel that if I have whenever I have the opportunity to do so, I will speak for and with these voices as to project them forward. So that's what I'm working right now. In terms of artwork, this is a very tricky question, Natalia, because you know that I'm thinking of new things, but you know my questions. Yeah. No, I'm still very much attached to this idea of speaking about racial issues, but through the lens of how it relates to whiteness, as opposed to portraying the violence against blackness. So I feel like it's time to invert the mirror, you know? And I've been asking myself and researching a lot about how, and my mom, you're distracting me. How to invert this mirror so that whiteness can see whiteness, so that whiteness can reflect upon whiteness and privilege and all these things. Yeah.
No, and it's an important conversation also, considering.
Definitely.
Also, like, I feel that it's an important conversation in our own countries, because we, as Latin American, Caribbean, you know, we're not exempt of those narratives also. And, you know, having these conversations is, you know, with our families, with our neighbors, with everyone, it's really important. Not only, I mean, I feel that everyone is like, you know, talking about the U.S., but I feel that it's like a global
it's a world
issue.
problem.
Yeah.
It is a global issue, because if you think of slavery, how it began, right? And of course, it did not begin with black people. It would be limiting to say that it did, but like other races were also enslaved. But what happened with during the slave trade era was very violent, and it affected several countries. So there is a diaspora that needs to come together to understand, to talk, and to discuss these issues amongst themselves, within their own countries, and find healing also, you know. Yeah. So that is what I'm doing right now.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. I don't want Instagram to cut us off, because we have like less than an hour to talk.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone that watched and engaged, and see you soon, I hope.
Yeah, see you soon, and thank you so much for your time. You're
Of course.
allowing us to know you, your work, your practice, which is incredible and very important. So
It was a pleasure.
yeah,
It was
no,
a pleasure.
abrazos y take care.
Sim. A share. Let's go forward.
All right, bye.
Okay. I think we're getting cut. No, we're not getting cuts. Okay, we can speak a little bit more if you want. I'm okay being cut by Instagram.
Oh, okay. You wanna keep talking? Okay. So yeah, no, I feel that if Instagram cut us off, it's fine. We said goodbye, so we're fine. Yeah, no, I think that we still need to talk about these subjects, and whenever we have the space for it, you know, considering this like monolithic, like very, white world that, the art is.
No, and like and that's why I remember going to America Society. I think it was the first museum that my graduate school took us to. And I remember just walking in, and at the time talking to Gabriela, and she was in conversation with my professor, and I was just looking around and seeing a bunch of artwork from several artists that I had never heard of, never seen, and everything was very new. And like, but at the same time, now in retrospect, these artists had become part of my language, of my notion of what is art from the Americas.
Right.
America, both North and South. And that is very important to emphasize and allow space to, Yeah. Yeah. Well. Bien.
Well, thank
Gracias.
you. Igualmente.
Besos.
Besos. We'll see you soon. Y
Yes.
mucho éxito y suerte.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Chao.
Besos, chao.